The notification sound from my son's phone cut through the midnight silence like a knife. Ben was supposed to be asleep, but there he sat on my home office couch, his 15-year-old face illuminated by the blue glow of his screen, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Dad," he whispered, his voice cracking, "we need to talk. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories." I set down my coffee and closed my laptop. At 42, I'd built my tech company from nothing, survived countless all-nighters, and thought I'd seen every kind of betrayal the business world could offer. I was wrong. "What's wrong, buddy?" Ben held up his phone with trembling hands. "It's Mom and Uncle Jason." The photos hit me like a physical blow. Emma, my wife of 16 years, wrapped in the arms of Jason Carter, my oldest friend and head of sales. Hotel parking lot. Key card in her hand, his mouth on hers. Another photo showed them entering room 237 at the Riverside Inn. "How long have you known?" I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. 2 weeks. I followed her when she said she was meeting her writing group. "Dad, I'm so sorry." I pulled my son into a hug, my mind already racing. Emma, 38 years old, freelance writer who'd been struggling with deadlines for months. Jason, 41, divorced last year, my best friend since college, the man who'd been my best man, who came to our barbecues, who called me his brother. "Ben, listen to me carefully. Don't tell your mother you know anything. Can you do that?" He nodded against my shoulder. "Good, because I'm going to handle this my way." After Ben went to bed, I sat in my office until dawn, staring at those photos. Emma had been distant lately, always on her phone, always having emergencies with her freelance work. Jason had been more helpful than usual, offering to check on Emma when I worked late, bringing her coffee, being the supportive friend. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd built a company worth $8 million, employed 43 people, and held 3 patents in network security. But I'd been blind to the network breach in my own home. My phone buzzed. A text from Jason. "Coffee this morning? Need to discuss the Henderson account." I smiled for the first time in hours. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "Sure," I typed back. "Let's talk." The next morning, Emma kissed my cheek before I left for work. Her lips felt like ice. "Working late again tonight," she said, not meeting my eyes. "The Morrison project is wearing me down." "Of course it is," I replied, watching her face carefully. "Jason mentioned he might stop by to help you brainstorm. He's always been good with creative projects." The slight flush in her cheeks told me everything I needed to know. At the office, I called my assistant Maggie into my private conference room. At 28, Maggie Rodriguez was sharp, loyal, and had an MBA from Northwestern. More importantly, she despised cheaters. Her ex-husband had left her for his secretary. "I need your help with a special project," I said, sliding a non-disclosure agreement across the table. "It's personal, but it involves company assets." She read the NDA carefully, then looked up at me with those intelligent brown eyes. "Someone's been stealing from you." Something like that. "I'm in. What do you need?" I outlined my plan. First, we'd conduct a routine audit of all sales accounts, focusing particularly on Jason's division. Second, we'd review security footage from the past 3 months. Third, we'd implement new financial controls that would, coincidentally, freeze Emma's access to our joint credit cards. "Technical difficulties with the bank's system," I explained. "Happens all the time." Maggie's smile was sharp as a blade. "I'll get started immediately." By noon, I had what I needed. Security footage showed Jason and Emma meeting in our company parking garage 4 times in the past month. Always after hours. Always when they thought no one was watching. My IT specialist, Mike Chen, knocked on my door around 3. "Greg, you wanted to see the access logs?" Mike was 32, brilliant with computers, and had been with the company since the early days. He'd also recently discovered his girlfriend was cheating with his roommate, so he understood the assignment without me having to spell it out. "Jason's been accessing client files he shouldn't have," Mike said, handing me a printed report. "Nothing illegal, but definitely against company policy. Also, he's been using the company Wi-Fi to book hotels." "The Riverside Inn?" "Among others." "Want me to document everything?" "Everything." That evening, I followed Emma to what she claimed was a writing workshop at the local library. Instead, she drove straight to Jason's apartment complex. I parked across the street and watched her use a key to let herself in. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Workshop running late. Don't wait up." I replied, "No problem. I'll be working late too. Love you." The lie came so easily, it surprised me. Saturday morning brought Ben's football game at Riverside Park. Emma sat beside me in the bleachers, cheering for our son while texting constantly. Every buzz of her phone made my jaw clench tighter. "Important client?" I asked during halftime. "Just Kim. She's having drama with Marcus again." Kim and Marcus were Emma's closest friends, a married couple who thrived on gossip and treated other people's relationships like entertainment. They'd been to our house dozens of times, knew our son, knew our history. The thought of them knowing about Emma's affair while I remained clueless made my blood boil. "Speaking of drama," I said casually, "Jason seemed upset yesterday. Mentioned something about hotel bills on his credit card he didn't recognize." Emma's phone slipped from her hands, clattering onto the bleacher below us. "Butterfingers," I said, retrieving it for her. The screen showed a text thread with J that made my stomach turn. "The latest message sent 2 minutes ago. Can't wait to see you tonight." Emma snatched the phone back, her face pale. "Thanks." "No problem. By the way, how was the writing workshop Thursday night?" "It was fine. Productive." "Good. The Riverside Inn must have excellent conference facilities." This time she went completely white. "What?" "For your writing workshop. I noticed the receipt in your car. The Riverside Inn, room 237, expensive venue for a writing group." Emma's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Around us, parents cheered as the second half began, unaware of the marriage unraveling quietly in their midst. "Greg, I can explain." "I'm sure you can." I stood up, brushing off my jeans. "But not here. Not now. We'll talk later." I left her sitting there and went to congratulate Ben on his touchdown. My son's smile was the only genuine thing in my world right now. That night, while Emma claimed to be at Kim and Marcus's house, I drove to the Rusty Anchor, a dive bar on the outskirts of town. Jason's silver BMW was parked outside, and through the window I could see him at the bar with a blonde woman who definitely wasn't Emma. I keyed cheater into the driver's side door of his car, then settled into my truck to wait. 20 minutes later, Jason stumbled out with his companion. When he saw his car, he exploded. "What the hell? Who did this?" He spun around, scanning the parking lot, his face red with rage and alcohol. "Coward, show yourself." I took photos of his meltdown from the shadows, then drove home. Emma's car was already in the driveway. "How was girls' night?" I asked when I found her in our bedroom. "Fine. Kim's still upset about Marcus working so much." "Mm-hmm. And how's Jason doing? He seems stressed at work." Emma froze in the middle of taking off her earrings. "Jason? Why would I know how Jason's doing?" "Just wondering. You two have been talking a lot lately." "We're friends, Greg. That's what friends do." Friends. The word tasted like poison. Till Monday morning, I called an emergency company meeting. All 43 employees crammed into our main conference room, buzzing with speculation. Jason sat in the front row, looking hungover and suspicious. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice carrying easily across the room. "I wanted to personally announce some changes to our sales division." Jason straightened in his chair, suddenly alert. "As you know, we've been conducting routine audits of all departments. During this process, we discovered some irregularities in expense reporting and client file access." The room went silent. Jason's face had gone ashen. "Effective immediately, Jason Carter is no longer employed by Mitchell Technologies." Gasps echoed around the room. Jason shot to his feet. "Greg, what the hell?" "Security will escort you out," I continued calmly. "Your final paycheck will be mailed within the week, minus deductions for personal use of company resources." 2 security guards appeared at the conference room doors. Jason looked around wildly, seeking support from his colleagues, but found only shocked stares and averted eyes. "This is insane," he sputtered. "Greg, we need to talk privately." "No, we don't." I met his desperate gaze with ice-cold calm. "Gentlemen, please escort Mr. Carter from the premises." As security led Jason away, I addressed the stunned room. "His accounts will be redistributed among the remaining sales team. Meeting adjourned." My phone exploded with texts within minutes. Emma: "What happened? Jason called me crying." Kim: "OMG, is it true you fired Jason?" Marcus: "Dude, what's the story?" I ignored them all and called Ben's school to let them know I'd be picking him up early. My son deserved to hear this from me first. "Dad, what's wrong?" Ben asked as we sat in my truck outside his school. "I fired Jason today." Ben's eyes widened. "Because of Mom?" "Because he betrayed my trust, in business and in life." I put my hand on his shoulder. "This is going to get ugly, son. Your mother's going to be upset. Her friends are going to take sides. Are you ready for that?" Ben nodded solemnly. Will you and Mom get divorced? I don't know yet, but whatever happens, you and I are solid. Understood? Understood. That evening, Emma burst through our front door like a hurricane. How could you? She screamed, throwing her purse onto the kitchen counter. Jason is your best friend. Was, I corrected, not looking up from my laptop. Past tense. This is about the hotel, isn't it? Greg, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. I closed the laptop and faced her. You've been sleeping with my best friend for months. In hotels I indirectly paid for, since his salary comes from my company. Came from my company. Emma's face crumpled. It just happened. We didn't plan it. Bullshit. The word came out harder than I intended. You don't accidentally book hotel rooms? You don't accidentally lie to your husband and son for months. What about Ben? She whispered. Ben knows. He's the one who told me. Emma staggered backward as if I'd slapped her. You turned my son against me? Your son figured it out himself. Kids aren't stupid, Emma. Just loyal. Unfortunately, he got that from me. She tried to reach for me, but I stepped away. Greg, please. We can fix this. I'll end it with Jason. We can go to counseling. You'll end it with Jason because I ended Jason. As for counseling, that's something you should have brought up before you chose to betray my trust with my best friend. Emma flinched at my language. In 16 years of marriage, I'd rarely sworn at her. I'm sleeping in the guest room, I said, walking past her toward the stairs. We'll figure out the rest later. Behind me, Emma began to cry. It was a sound I'd once moved heaven and earth to stop. Now, it just sounded like justice. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in systematic destruction. I'd built my company by understanding networks, how information flows, where the weak points are, how to exploit vulnerabilities. Social networks, I discovered, operated on the same principles. Emma's first casualty was her credit. The technical difficulties with our joint accounts had mysteriously expanded to affect her individual cards as well. Amazing how many financial institutions experience simultaneous system errors. Her second casualty was her work. As a freelance writer, Emma depended on referrals and reputation. A few carefully placed conversations with mutual acquaintances about marital difficulties and trust issues had a remarkable effect on her client base. Her third casualty was her social circle. Kim and Marcus had initially rallied around Emma, organizing girls' nights and offering shoulders to cry on. But when I quietly mentioned to Marcus that Emma had been using their house as an alibi while meeting Jason, their support evaporated overnight. She lied to us, Kim told me during a chance encounter at the grocery store. Made us accomplices in her affair. That's not okay. No, I agreed. It's not. Jason, meanwhile, was discovering that small-town Maine had a long memory for scandal. His landlord, coincidentally a client of my company, had received an anonymous tip about suspicious activity in Jason's apartment. The eviction notice followed within days. His car, still bearing the scratches from my key, had been vandalized twice more. Someone had spray-painted "Homewrecker" across the windshield and slashed his tires. I had nothing to do with those incidents, but I wasn't exactly heartbroken about them either. The breaking point came on a Thursday evening. Emma had been staying with her sister in Boston, trying to clear her head and figure things out. She returned home to find the locks changed and her belongings neatly packed in boxes on the front porch. "You can't do this," she screamed, pounding on the door. "This is my house, too." I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Actually, it's not. The house is in my name only. Wedding gift from my parents, remember? You're trespassing." "I have rights. We're married." "We're separated. You made that choice when you chose Jason over our family." Emma's face was streaked with tears and rage. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I suggest you ask Jason." "Oh, wait. He's been evicted too. Maybe you can find a nice hotel. The Riverside Inn has reasonable weekly rates." The cruelty in my voice surprised even me, but I was past caring. Emma had destroyed our family for a cheap thrill with my best friend. She deserved every consequence that followed. "What about Ben?" she whispered. "Ben can visit you once you find a permanent address. Until then, he stays with me." "You're poisoning him against me." "I'm protecting him from your choices. There's a difference." Emma gathered her boxes with shaking hands, loading them into her car with the desperate efficiency of someone whose world was collapsing. As she drove away, I felt a mixture of satisfaction and emptiness that surprised me. Ben appeared at my elbow, watching his mother's taillights disappear. "You okay, Dad?" "Getting there, son. Getting there." 3 weeks later, I received an invitation that made me laugh out loud. Kim and Marcus were throwing their annual summer barbecue, the same party Emma and I had attended for the past 8 years. The same party where Jason had first started paying too much attention to my wife, now that I thought about it. The invitation was addressed only to me. I arrived fashionably late, bringing a bottle of expensive wine and my best fake smile. The party was in full swing, 30-odd people scattered across Kim and Marcus's backyard, the same crowd that had been Emma's social foundation. "Greg," Marcus clapped me on the back. "Glad you could make it, man." "Wouldn't miss it. How's everyone doing?" The conversations that followed were illuminating. Emma had been calling people constantly, trying to rebuild bridges I'd systematically burned. She'd painted herself as the victim of my controlling behavior and financial abuse. She'd claimed I was brainwashing Ben against her. Unfortunately for Emma, I'd been playing this game longer and better. "It's sad, really," I told a small group gathered around the beer cooler. 16 years of marriage, and she throws it away for a few afternoons with Jason. I tried to work things out, but how do you trust someone who lies to your face for months? Nods of sympathy. Murmurs of agreement. These people had known me for years, watched me coach Ben's Little League team, seen me support Emma's writing dreams, witnessed my loyalty to friends and family. My version of events carried weight that Emma's desperate phone calls couldn't match. I was deep in conversation with Tom Bradley, a lawyer who'd done work for my company, when a commotion near the back gate caught my attention. Emma had arrived, uninvited and clearly desperate. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, her face gaunt from stress and sleepless nights. She scanned the crowd frantically until her eyes found mine. "Greg," she pushed through the party guests like a woman possessed. "We need to talk." The entire party fell silent. 30 pairs of eyes watched as my estranged wife stormed across the lawn toward me, her face a mask of fury and desperation. "Hello, Emma," I said calmly. "I didn't realize you were invited." I wasn't. She stopped 3 feet away from me, breathing hard. "Kim made that very clear. Apparently I'm not welcome in my own friend group anymore." "Actions have consequences," I replied. "You should know that by now." "You bastard!" Her voice carried across the silent yard. "You've turned everyone against me. My friends, my clients, my own son. I didn't have to turn anyone against you, Emma. You did that yourself when you decided to screw my best friend." Gasps from the crowd. Someone's drink hit the ground. Emma's face went red. "It wasn't like that." It was exactly like that. I stepped closer, my voice low but carrying. "You lied to me, to Ben, to everyone here. You used Kim and Marcus as alibis while you met Jason in hotel rooms. You made them accomplices in your betrayal without their knowledge or consent." Kim stepped forward, her face flushed with anger. "Is that true, Emma? Did you tell us you were with us when you were really with Jason?" Emma's silence was answer enough. "Get out," Marcus said quietly. "You're not welcome here." "This is insane." Emma spun around, addressing the crowd. "You're all taking his side without hearing mine." "We heard your side," called out Sarah Mitchell, no relation despite the name. "You called me crying for 2 hours last week, remember? Told me all about how Greg was being unreasonable and controlling. Funny how you forgot to mention the affair." More murmurs from the crowd. Emma was losing them, and she knew it. She turned back to me, desperation replacing anger. "Greg, please. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We have 16 years together. A son." "We had 16 years," I corrected. "You threw them away for a few cheap thrills with Jason. As for Ben, he's doing fine. Better, actually, now that he doesn't have to watch his mother lie to his father every day." Emma's composure finally cracked completely. She lunged at me, fingers clawed, screaming incoherently. I sidestepped easily, and she stumbled, falling to her knees on the grass. The silence that followed was deafening. "Someone should call the police," Tom Bradley said quietly. "No need," I replied, pulling out my phone. "I'll call her sister. Emma needs help, not jail." As Emma sobbed on the ground, I made the call that would send her back to Boston, back to what remained of her family, back to a life without me or Ben or the social circle she'd destroyed with her choices. The party never recovered its momentum after that. People made their excuses and left early, but not before several of them approached me privately to offer their support and express their disgust at Emma's behavior. Driving home alone, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. 6 months later, I was having coffee at the Rusty Anchor when Jason walked in. He looked like hell. Unshaven, wearing clothes that had seen better days, the cocky confidence that had once made him successful in sales completely gone. He saw me immediately and hesitated, clearly debating whether to leave. I raised my coffee cup in a mock toast, and that decided him. He walked over to my table with the grim determination of a man with nothing left to lose. "Greg." "Jason, you look well." He snorted, sliding into the booth across from me uninvited. "Cut the shit. We both know why I look like this." "Do we?" Enlighten me? You destroyed my life, my job, my apartment, my reputation. Even Emma won't return my calls anymore. I sipped my coffee thoughtfully. That's interesting, because from where I sit, you destroyed your own life when you decided to sleep with my wife. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Jason's hands clenched on the table. It wasn't supposed to happen. Emma was lonely. You were always working. So you decided to help yourself to my wife. How noble of you. She came to me, Greg. She was unhappy. And you were so worried about her happiness that you took her to hotels and betrayed me for months. What a great friend you turned out to be. Jason flinched at my tone. I know how it looks. It looks like betrayal. It looks like you decided my family was worth less than your dick. It looks like you forgot who gave you a job when you were broke, who trusted you with my business, who called you brother. I'm sorry. The words came out broken, desperate. I'm genuinely sorry, Greg. If I could take it back, but you can't. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. You can't take back the lies, the hotels, the way you looked me in the eye at company meetings while you were screwing my wife. You can't take back the way my son found out his mother was a cheater. You can't take back 16 years of marriage destroyed for a few afternoons of cheap sex. Jason's face was pale, his hands shaking slightly. What do you want from me? Nothing. You have nothing I want. You're broke, unemployed, and alone. Emma's moved back to Boston and won't take your calls. Your ex-wife took half your assets in the divorce. Your reputation in this town is shot. You're exactly where you deserve to be. I stood up, dropping a 20 on the table. Coffee's on me. Consider it a going-away present. Going away? This is a small town, Jason. Everyone knows what you did. You'll never work here again, never be welcome in the places we used to go, never rebuild what you destroyed. The smart move is to leave. Start over somewhere else where people don't know you're the kind of man who betrays his best friend. I walked toward the door, then paused and looked back. Oh, and Jason? If you ever contact my son, come near my house, or even mention Emma's name to me again, I'll make everything that's happened to you so far seem like a walk in the park. We clear? Jason nodded mutely. Good. Have a nice life. I left him sitting there, staring into his empty coffee cup, and walked out into the Maine sunshine feeling lighter than I had in months. 2 weeks later, I heard through the grapevine that Jason had left town. No forwarding address, no goodbye, just gone like he'd never existed. Emma was still in Boston, working part-time at a bookstore and living with her sister. Ben visited her once a month, dutiful but distant. My company had its best quarter ever. Without Jason's drama and Emma's distractions, I'd thrown myself into work with renewed focus. We'd landed 3 major contracts and hired 8 new employees. Success, as they say, was the best revenge. But the real victory came on a Saturday morning in October. Ben and I were having breakfast when he looked up from his phone and said, "Dad, I'm proud of you." For what? For not letting them get away with it, for showing me that actions have consequences, for teaching me what real strength looks like. I reached across the table and squeezed his shoulder. You're going to be a good man, Ben. Better than me. I learned from the best. Outside, the leaves were changing colors, and the air carried the promise of winter. Inside, my son and I planned our day. Football practice, grocery shopping, maybe a movie later. Simple things. Good things. Honest things. Emma had wanted excitement, passion, the thrill of forbidden romance. She'd gotten it, and it had cost her everything that actually mattered. Jason had wanted my wife, my trust, my friendship, and thought he could have them all without consequence. He'd learned otherwise. As for me, I'd wanted justice. Not the kind that comes from courts or lawyers, but the kind that comes from truth. The kind that exposes betrayal and lets consequences flow naturally from choices. I'd gotten exactly what I wanted. Ben laughed at something on his phone, and the sound filled our kitchen with warmth. This was my victory, not the destruction of my enemies, but the preservation of what mattered most, my son's respect, my own integrity, a future built on honesty instead of lies. Emma and Jason had chosen their path. I'd simply made sure they walked it all the way to the end. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people live with their choices, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, you get to watch.